Time magazine, the prestigious American weekly news magazine, published its first issue in 1923, and throughout over 80 years of publishing, one of its most famous features remains the annual nomination of the Time magazine Person of the Year. In 2005, the honour went to 3 people who had worked hard to make the world a better place. The recipients were Bono and computer tycoon Bill Gates and his wife Melinda Gates. These 3 were brought together under the title The Good Samaritans. Time magazine explained its choice in its December 19th issue for being shrewd about doing good, for rewiring politics and re-engineering justice, for making mercy smarter and hope strategic, and then daring the rest of us to follow. Bill and Melinda Gates and Bono are Time's Persons of the Year. Time magazine's deputy managing editor, Steve Kerp, said the 3 had been chosen because they had been most effective at finding ways to eradicate epidemics such as malaria, HIV and AIDS in Africa, and the poverty that kills 8 million people a year.
Because they showed the world a whole new way to look at the poor and how to help them. It's not so much about pity, which is, you know, let's ease the suffering and throw some money at the problem, but it's more about there's injustice here, let's settle a score, let's help these people help themselves.
Bono fought off such contenders as Bill Clinton, and Steve Kerp himself admitted it was unusual to put Bono, a hellraiser, alongside the Gates, the world's richest couple. But he defended his decision because Time sees Bono as an example of how different approaches to philanthropy work. The Gates were named for their work in the Gates Foundation, the world's biggest charity. By way of a $29 billion US endowment, they fund hundreds of projects around the world, with their primary focus on public health, from vaccinations to developing new drugs, as well as educational programs and scholarships in the United States and abroad. Bono was described as the rocker who has made debt reduction sexy. Time magazine wrote that the rocker's job is to be raucous and grab our attention, and in contrast, the engineer's job is to make things work. Bono and the Gates had already formed an unlikely alliance after a dinner in 2002.
Bono made it cool to care about poor people, and especially about extremely poor people. And what he did is he leveraged his own incredible celebrity to really persuade politicians around the world of rich countries to relieve the debts of poor countries, like to the tune of $40 billion. And what this did is it relieved all those poor countries of these huge debts and enabled them to spend the money on education and health and lots of other things that would have been neglected.
In 2005, Bono and Bob Geldof spearheaded a campaign that created such a groundswell of public pressure that in July, the world's industrialized nations agreed to double aid to poor countries by 2010, adding $50 billion a year, and alongside this, to cancel poor countries' debt. That year was a typically full one for Bono. He had spent time in Brussels at the European Union headquarters talking to media and politicians about what needed to be done. He also travelled with U2 on a world tour with their Vertigo stage show. He took time out to appear in Bob Geldof's compelling black and white advertisement, Make Poverty History, and while in the States, he dropped in for lunch with Condoleezza Rice. At Kennedy Airport, he put in time to help send 6 million boxes of toys donated for African children.
Where we say, it's not acceptable to let a child die. The children who are going to receive these gifts this Christmas, okay, this may be their last Christmas. That does not have to be. There are drugs here in the United States and in Europe that are advertisements for us and our technology and our, our innovation.
And with an attitude like that, you can be sure that Bono won't rest while there's work still to be done.